Brahms Fourth, one of the monuments of our music.
Yeah.
Tell me about your history with Brahms Fourth, your thoughts about the piece, anything that might be on your mind about that. I mean, it's been talked about a lot over the years, but it's such an amazing creation.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, anybody who has a top 5 or 10 greatest symphonies, like a list, I think Brahms 4 needs to be on there. I think it is not just one of Brahms's best works. I think it's one of the greatest works in the entire repertoire. There's so much I could talk about, but I think one thing, I preface this by saying we have to be careful when we talk about somebody's last symphony, because composers don't usually know when something is their last symphony. But in the case of Brahms, I feel like he must have known, he was, in his 50s, which at that time was not super young anymore. And he must have looked around and seen where music was headed. When we talk about Wagner and Liszt and upcoming people like Debussy, the music of the future around him. And I feel like he must have had some part of him that thought he wanted to show the world what could still be done using the forms of the classical and Baroque era, this idea of the symphony full of its structures and kind of rigorous methods. And what came out of that is, I think, the most perfect example of marrying the left brain and the right brain, or, the intellect and the emotion, the structure and passion, however you want to say it. I think this symphony does that better than any other. To give you just one example, the opening of the symphony opens with this chain of thirds. The first like 6 or 7 notes, they're all a third apart. And actually the whole symphony is based on thirds. And yet, this is not something that is the reason why we go listen to it. We're not excited to hear thirds. But what comes out of it is really one of the greatest openings of any symphony, I think, ever written. It's a famous opening, famously kind of tricky to conduct as well, for that matter, but that's my problem. But it is such a memorable opening and so beautiful. I think anybody who hears it just remembers it forever. And that's just the beginning. I mean, the symphony is just full of this. There's all of these kind of archaic structures that he uses, but what comes out is a symphony that has all the emotions you can think of. I mean, there's joy, sadness, fear, love, happiness. There's everything in it, and studying it is just such a joy. And I'm so excited to perform it. I've conducted parts of it and I've assisted parts of it, but I'm so excited. It's been on my mind for a long time to perform it, and I just can't wait.